Wolverine is one of the most recognizable characters in Marvel history. He has adamantium claws, an incredible healing factor, and a memory filled with missing pieces. But what if the biggest mystery about Wolverine isn't his past? It's his family. Because Wolverine's family tree isn't normal. It contains a hidden father, a tragic half-brother, a son who became a villain, a daughter created from his DNA, another son with Mystique, and even an entire alternate universe Wolverine. So how many members are actually connected to Logan? Today, we're uncovering the shocking family tree of Wolverine. Before the world knew him as Wolverine, he was James Howlett. James was born into a wealthy Canadian family in the late 19th century. His mother was Elizabeth Howlett. His father was believed to be John Howlett, but this is where Wolverine's family mystery begins. Because the man who was actually connected to James's birth was Thomas Logan. And Thomas Logan would eventually become one of the most important secrets in Wolverine's family history. Thomas Logan was a groundskeeper on the Howlett estate. And according to Wolverine's later established origin, Thomas was Logan's biological father. That means Wolverine wasn't actually a Howlett by blood. He was a Logan, but there was another shocking connection. Thomas Logan already had a son. His name was Dog Logan. Dog Logan was Wolverine's older half-brother, and their relationship was anything but peaceful. Dog was jealous and violent toward young James. Their rivalry eventually became one of the earliest tragedies in Wolverine's life. And this is where Wolverine's famous animalistic nature begins to take on a deeper meaning. Two brothers, one family, and a rivalry that would help shape the young boy who would eventually become Wolverine. But Logan's family tragedy was only beginning. Wolverine's early life was filled with violence and loss. His childhood trauma contributed to the fragmented memories that would follow him for decades. As Wolverine grew older, he became a wandering fighter, soldier, and eventually one of the world's most dangerous mutants. Along the way, he formed relationships with many people, but one of the most important was Itsu, and their relationship would produce Wolverine's first biological child. Wolverine's son is Akihiro, better known as Daken. Daken inherited many of his father's abilities. He possesses a powerful healing factor, enhanced senses, physical abilities, and retractable claws. But Daken didn't grow up simply wanting to become another Wolverine. He developed a deep resentment toward his father. And unlike Logan, Daken often embraced the darker side of his nature. Father and son eventually became enemies. Imagine fighting the person who carries your own blood, and seeing your own abilities reflected back at you. That was Wolverine's relationship with Daken. Then came one of the most important additions to Wolverine's family, Laura Kinney. She was originally known as X-23, but Laura isn't simply Wolverine's daughter in the traditional sense. She was created using genetic material connected to Wolverine. She was engineered to become a weapon. Her childhood was filled with experimentation, violence, and manipulation. But Laura eventually escaped that life. And over time, she became something much more important. A hero. Laura eventually took up the mantle of Wolverine herself. This created one of the most powerful ideas in Wolverine's family story. Wolverine didn't just leave behind a child. He left behind a legacy. And Laura became one of the people who carried it forward. But Laura wasn't the only female clone connected to Wolverine. Enter Gabby Kinney, also known as Scout. Gabby was created from the same genetic legacy associated with Wolverine and Laura. Unlike Laura's darker childhood, Gabby developed a close relationship with Laura. She eventually became part of Laura's unconventional family. So now Wolverine's family tree contains something unusual: a father, a son, a daughter, and another younger clone who became like a sister to Laura. And we're still not finished. Wolverine's complicated relationships eventually produced another shocking family connection. In an alternate future timeline, Wolverine and Mystique had a son. His name was Ray's Darkholme. And if that name sounds familiar, it should. Ray's inherited powers associated with both of his parents. He could shapeshift like Mystique, and possessed abilities connected to Wolverine's mutant heritage. But Reyes wasn't exactly a hero. He became a dangerous enemy of the X-Men. Once again, Wolverine's family tree produced someone who inherited his powers, but not necessarily his heroic path. Now we're leaving the main Marvel universe, because there is another Wolverine family connection that many casual fans don't know about. In the Ultimate Universe, Wolverine had a son named Jimmy Hudson. Jimmy was raised believing that Wolverine was his father only after learning the truth about his origins. He inherited Wolverine's mutant abilities and eventually became a hero in his own right. But Jimmy isn't simply another child added to Logan's main family tree. He's part of an alternate universe. And that's important, because Marvel's multiverse means Wolverine's family can look very different depending on the reality you're talking about. So let's put everything together. At the center, Wolverine, James Howlett, Logan. His biological father, Thomas Logan. His half-brother, Dog Logan. His biological son, Daken. His genetically created daughter, Laura Kinney, X-23. Laura's genetic sister, Gabby Kinney, Scout. His son with Mystique in an alternate future, Reyes Darkholme. And in the Ultimate Universe, Jimmy Hudson. Suddenly, Wolverine's family tree doesn't look like a tree anymore. It looks like an entire forest. But why does Wolverine have such a complicated family? Because Wolverine himself has always been a character defined by identity. Who is Logan? Who is James Howlett? What happened to his memories? Who were his parents? What kind of person was he before becoming Wolverine? And perhaps most importantly, what does it mean to be Wolverine? His children and genetic descendants explore different answers to that question. Daken represents the darker side of Logan. Laura represents redemption. Gabby represents a new generation. Reyes represents the dangerous possibilities of Wolverine's legacy. And Jimmy represents how that legacy can exist in another universe. For most of his life, Wolverine believed he was destined to be alone. He lost friends. He lost loved ones. He lost memories. He spent decades running from his past. But eventually, Wolverine discovered something he never expected. A family. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't peaceful. And sometimes, his own children became his enemies. But they proved that Logan's story didn't have to end with him. His legacy could continue through them. Wolverine's family tree is one of the strangest in Marvel. A secret father, a violent half-brother, a son who became an enemy, a daughter created from his DNA, a genetic sister, a son with Mystique, and another Wolverine from an alternate universe. But perhaps the most important member of Wolverine's family isn't the one who shares the most DNA with him. It's the one who chose to carry on his legacy. Laura Kinney. Because Wolverine spent his entire life searching for his identity, and eventually, his family helped him discover what being Wolverine truly meant. He wasn't just a weapon. He was a father. He was a mentor. And he became the beginning of a new Wolverine legacy. But Wolverine isn't the only X-Men character with a completely insane family tree. Next, we're going into the Summers family. Cyclops, Havoc, Vulcan, Cable, Rachel Grey, and the family connections that make the X-Men timeline almost impossible to understand. Subscribe for the next episode of X-Men Family Trees.